Hello, my name is Bob Doman. I'm the founder and director of the National Association for Child Development. This is one of a series of little videos we're doing relative to children with Down syndrome and issues they face and how to assist them in maximizing their potential. In this segment, I like to talk about their motor function. Motor function is very significant, not just for the obvious reasons that we want a child to learn how to walk and run and jump as well as possible. But actually the basic motor function is rather key to how the entire brain becomes stimulated and organized. So actually the motor function, some of these lower level skills, are going to impact not just that running and jumping, but they're going to impact the ultimate cognitive function of the child and overall organization of the central nervous system and efficiency of the central nervous system. One of the more common issues relative to what is being done with our children with Down syndrome is perception of potential as being less than what it is. For example, in motor function, if your perception is we want to develop and can develop normal motor function, we want to make sure we're putting all those pieces together properly that will permit normal motor function. And essentially that means we have to take the child through all the normal developmental steps. And in truth, children with Down syndrome can and should go through all the normal developmental steps. And if we look at what that is, generally that means that the child is permitted to be down on the floor as an infant. The child learns how to crawl in their tummy, creep on their hands and knees, and then get up and walk, and then get up and run. If we pass any of those steps, if we ignore any of those steps, which often unfortunately happens with our children with Down syndrome, we ultimately are creating issues with structure, with tone, with strength, with coordination, and again, not establishing a strong neurological foundation for the later cognitive function. Muscle tone is often a issue with our children. We find that tone is very directly correlated with tactility, particularly deep tactile sensation. And when we're working with a child, we need to be working and looking at these tactile issues, tone issues, and strength issues. All right? Strength is different than tone. Tone is a neurological term, essentially meaning how the muscle responds to being stretched. Strength is the actual strength of the muscle. So when we're working with the kids, we have to look at tone, and we have to look at strength, and we have to look at that foundation, which is often tactility. Then we have to make sure the child is going through the steps necessary to build the proper muscle balance. Muscle balance is a balance between what are called the flexor muscles, the inside muscles, and extensor muscles, outside muscles. And if we're not doing things in the right order, taking care of the right steps, we end up with muscle imbalances that end up producing structural problems for the kids, ankle problems, knee problems, hip problems, back problems, and adversely affect all their motor function. You know, one of the things I often see that people ignore the typical developmental steps, ignore the pieces, and they'll take a child with low tone, poor strength, who hasn't moved on their tummy, hasn't developed that muscle balance, hasn't moved on their hands and knees, and they're standing up trying to get them to walk. And you know, I can identify an adult with Down syndrome who did that in about a half a second, because I can look and see how they're moving their legs, how they're moving their trunk, how they're moving their arms in coordination or lack of coordination with the trunk and the legs, and say, okay, that child did not complete the steps. We did not put the pieces together properly. So it's very important if you're looking at really achieving the potential of your child, that all those pieces are looked at in their entirety, and the pieces are put together completely and correctly for your child. These are areas that if it's messed up early on, it becomes very difficult to fix it later. You know, we can, but it's much more difficult, and it's much more conducive to the child's overall development and ultimate cognitive function if we do it correctly in the first place. Thanks.